Thank you for watching an episode of Straight Up Gay Talk. If you're a straight man or a straight woman, if you're a trans man or a trans woman, whoever you are, and you want your voice to be heard, please scan the QR code on your screen and let's have a conversation. I look forward to hearing from you. I love you all. Watching the play and hearing you talk about your psychiatrist has really good ideas and ethical way about how to kind of like transition. If you're transitioning, these are good things to consider, and like the line items of what he's suggesting that you should do makes perfect sense, and we're going to get into that.
He saved my life. I'm
Yeah.
sure he saved my life.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I was actually starting to have I always smoked pot my whole life. I mean, I don't now, but I mean, I was a daily pot smoker. So was my ex-wife, and I had started drinking more than smoking pot when she moved out because it would put me to sleep. And otherwise I would have trouble sleeping. I was worried about my future. I didn't know what my future would be, and I just needed to go to sleep. And so I would, drink 4 beers, 5 beers, and put me to sleep. So he got me to stop drinking. He's like, yeah, you can't have, if you're going to be, fighting for custody, once that custody case started, he's like, you got to stop pot and you got to stop, you know,
Wow,
drinking.
he actively said those things, huh?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
some therapists or psychiatrists are kind of like standoffish. They let you kind of like vent until like and don't give you like advice at all.
yeah,
So he's actively giving you specific things to
yeah.
do. Okay.
Yeah, and he had been a psychiatrist for years, and he had also was well known in that court at the LA Superior Court because he had testified and written support letters for lots of patients.
Okay.
And so when I gave the court a letter from Dr. Carter, my judge knew who that was. He knew him personally. He's like, yeah, he's been here in this court, in this very courtroom. He's been here before. So that gave me a little bit of credibility. And yeah, so I stopped the drinking. I kept smoking cigarettes. I didn't quit cigarettes until about 10 years ago. It was the hardest thing I ever did, actually.
Right.
But yeah, that he was like he pretty much saved my life. If I didn't have him guiding me, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have known how to I wouldn't have known what to do.
And like, how can you afford him? Because sometimes it's really to have a therapist is
Yeah, he was
a
expensive.
luxury.
Yeah, and I didn't have insurance. He was expensive. I worked as my job was only on the weekends. I
Hmm.
was a costumed character. So I would go to children's parties as Barney or Power Rangers or Muppets or gosh, Bert and Ernie,
How
all
old
of
are you?
them.
How old are you during this?
30.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 30. Yep. And so yeah, that was my job. And so I would show up to my job androgynously, just in non-gender clothing, and immediately put on the costume. That's how my boss didn't know I was transitioning.
Uh,
She found out later,
okay.
um, by, the only thing I can guess is that my ex-wife outed me because within a week, I got fired, I got evicted, and then I got sued for divorce and custody, all within 1 week.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And she changed the name on the bank account and she canceled my phone.
Wow.
She was trying to send me to the streets. She wanted to, because she had already moved out,
Hmm.
and my daughter and I were still staying at the house that we were renting.
Hmm.
And she had my daughter on the weekends.
Hmm.
And she, I mean, I wasn't dating that much other than those the people that would go out for that, to with that LA Weekly ad. But once I met Steve, I met him within the first month, like in January. And then he and I dated. And I stayed with one person. I wasn't, dating a whole bunch of people. But it was fine for a while. I mean, everything seemed like, that's how she wanted it because she was going on her solo band career. I was not doing music. I dropped everything. I wanted to just be a parent and just work. I didn't really want to, wasn't interested anymore in playing Hollywood bars,
Mm.
and taking my daughter to childcare. No, I would rather just stay with my daughter. So I got that weekend job, and everything was fine for a while. It seemed like until until Jazz started calling me mom in front of her, and that just drove her crazy.
Yeah.
And she would scream at my daughter, and you only have one mom, and I'd be like, oh God, Jack, Keek, just let her. This was even before the court case, and Jazz was fine with it. She said, I have friends in school that have two moms. It's not a big deal. Leave it alone. And 5-year old, you're going to scream at a 5-year old because I felt so bad for her, but for my daughter, not for my ex. But then it was Mother's Day. I even talked about that in the play. Mother's Day, I think, was the big deal because my daughter had been with her mom for the weekend. And when she brought Jasmine, my daughter, back to me, Jazz walked in the room and she's like, Happy Mother's Day to you too, Rejyna. And her mom went crazy
Oh, wow.
and she's trying to smack me and yelling at Jazz and screaming. And she had one of those tempers. I mean, I don't have that. I don't like yelling. My dad yelled. I'm averse to yelling. I don't think that I just don't like yelling at people, except for other drivers, maybe. But that's generally, not as bad as it used to be. But yeah, so after that, it wasn't really very long after that. I think Mother's Day's in May, right? So it was like a month later. That's when all hell broke loose.
Right.
And yeah, so that was my job. I made good money. I mean,
Okay.
I got really good tips because I was good with kids, and I did the balloon tying and the face painting, and I had the ferrets. And I don't know if you've ever seen those costume characters at a kids party, but
Yeah, I've seen them.
bring all the things. And yeah, I loved it. I mean, that was blast.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so let's continue with your kind of linear year by year story or phase by phase. So now let's get into to when you were going through puberty all the way up to maybe until you were like around 18 or 21. Can you talk about where you were? Were you still in Ohio and
Yeah.
what's going on during these formative later years?
Yeah. Still in Ohio. Um, had girlfriends, but I still knew that something was different because I wanted to, still felt like I was supposed to be female. And so I didn't really go out cross dressing a lot, but I would cross dress at home. Like if my parents would leave to go to my brother's sporting events or whatever, or they would, as soon as I had the place to myself, that's when I would dress female. But I still had girlfriends and I still wanted to be with girls, and I didn't tell anybody, nobody. I mean, I got that book, The Transsexual Phenomenon, I think I was 19, and I found that in a bookstore, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a word for what I am. I wanted to know for years. I wanted to know what's wrong with me. What is this that I have? Because I knew I wasn't like, I knew I wasn't, there was a kid in our school who was cross-dresser.
Mm.
And I knew I wasn't like that. He acted very effeminate. He liked boys. He didn't like girls. I didn't have anything in common with him. And so
Sounds like
I
he was
knew,
gay. Was he
yeah,
gay?
he was gay, but he
Okay.
was also like cross-dressing in school too.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I knew I wasn't like that. I knew I still liked girls. I was embarrassed to tell anybody that I felt like I should be female. I was terrified that people would find out. But my mom found that book. after I bought that book when I was 19. And also, she had also found a box of female clothes that I used when they would leave, and that would be the clothes that I would wear when they were gone.
Hmm.
Because I only had like one outfit and some shoes and stuff. It wasn't like drag queen clothes. It was basically just regular girl clothes. And they asked me, I remember I came home from school and they were in the front room and there was the box sitting on the table. And I'm like, oh shit. And you went in my closet and went through my things?
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, what is this? Well, I kind of convinced them that I had had a girl stay over and that it was somebody else. It was a girlfriend's clothes and that she left them there. I got in trouble because I wasn't supposed to have girls stay over and they had gone camping with my brother and I didn't go. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's because one of my girlfriends stayed overnight and it were her clothes. So I lied. But then about a year later, when I got that book, and my mom found the book in my room, because my mom was like that. She would go in my room and look through my stuff,
Hmm.
just like that. So did my brother. We didn't have a lot of privacy, my family. And so I came home one day, and my mom was sitting at the kitchen counter, kitchen table, and the book was on the table. My dad wasn't there, and I walked in, and my mom's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh shit."
How old were you?
19.
Okay.
I had just turned 19.
Hmm.
And so I had already, well, like I was going to be an architect, that was the goal, but everybody started playing guitar, so I started playing guitar. And then one day I was playing the guitar in the art room. Instead of drawing art, I was playing the guitar. And my art teacher, one of my art teachers asked me, if I wanted to write a song for the art show. And so I wrote a song, the Voice Inside song, and it was for the governor's art show. And then the senior class committee, they voted that song as the class song. And
Oh.
then my creative writing teacher said, why don't you make that into a record? I'm like, because I don't have the money to make a record. That's like $1,000. He's like, go to each student and collect $1 in advance and tell them that you're going to make a record and you'll give them a record when you graduate. Crowdfunding, just like Kickstarter, before Kickstarter was even invented.
Oh, wow.
And I did that. And I collected $1,000 and I went to a recording studio and I made a record. And that was my first record. And it was called The Voice Inside. And before that, I had convinced my grandma to take a personal loan and I paid the loan. She took the loan for me so I could buy a reel-to-reel recorder. And that reel-to-reel let me build a studio in my bedroom so I could record, write songs. You could record multiple tracks. It was a multi-track recorder. Yeah, so I made my first record in high school and I started singing in bands, local bands. I went to college. I was working full-time college, full-time job, and full-time in a band. I used to sleep in my car on campus, because I just couldn't get home in time after rehearsal. I would go to band rehearsal at night, then I would sleep in my car. I had a station wagon, and I would sleep in my car, and then I'd show up at school. And then one of my friends that had a dorm would let me shower in his dorm, and then I would go to work, and then I would go to band practice. I mean, I did that for a year. Oh my God, it drove me crazy. And then this radio station had a contest, and you send in songs, and they picked songs for a record, hometown album, they called it. And I got picked. And I was on this record with all these bands that I looked up to that I would go to their concerts, local bands. I would go to their
Local Ohio
shows.
bands.
Uh-huh. Yep, local Ohio bands. Yeah, I would go to their concerts and I remember I was in the audience for all of them. And when I got picked to be on the album with these guys, I was like, I have made it. I'm gonna be famous. They were playing me on the radio. I remember it was the weirdest thing in the world walking down the street and hearing my song play in someone's car that I didn't know. It was weird, very
That's great.
strange. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that's when I decided I was going to quit college. and I was going to just be in music. And not very long, not very far after that, I started producing my own concerts and festivals. And I produced a festival, an outdoor festival, and that's where I met my ex-wife. I mean, we had seen each other a couple times in the music store and at a concert and like at a movie and stuff. And I recorded one of her. She was singer. She was singing, and she had started playing 12-string guitar. And so her band, the band that she sang with, had a gig at a high school, and I took my reel to reel, my multi-track recorder, and was recording her band, and that's how we actually first met.
Mm.
And then I saw her several times in town, and then she came to that outdoor concert that I promoted with my band there, and then it was about a month later. She showed up in the parking lot of my work. Like I was working for a company, I was running a printing press,
Mm.
and I had learned how to do printing. I mean, I learned I've had like I've been in like 10 industries or 12 different
You're a
industries.
Renaissance woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of my curiosity, because as soon as somebody says, "Hey, have you ever done that before?" I'll be like, "No, I want to know. Let me learn that." And so, I was architect. I did that for a while. I did printing press for a while. Oh, God, have so many
Jackie of
jobs.
all trades.
Yes, that's right. I worked in electronics manufacturing. I worked as a graphic artist. I worked in a publishing company. And then I went back to college and got a graphic arts degree and worked as a graphic artist. And, then I learned how to do video editing and digital photography. I was a digital photographer for a company for 4 years. And then I learned how to build databases and video editing, and then VFX. I worked in film VFX. I mean, one thing after another. I mean, I just like learning. And
Yeah.
then as soon as I learn something, I get really good at it.
Mm.
So yeah, curiosity has been the thing that's pulled me through, my life. I've always been highly curious about things. And that's just another that just points again to always looking for something to validate me. Because
Mm.
if I have my choice, if money wasn't an object and I didn't have to worry about working,
Mhm.
I would probably spend most of my time now. I would probably spend most of my time with, youth that either are rejected from their families or have dysfunctional families. Not necessarily only trans and non-binary, but I'd probably focus on trans and non-binary youth because first of all, they're adorable.
Mm.
And second of all, they are so desperate for love. And
Mm.
I meet so many kids that are gender non-conforming that are rejected by their families and their parents, and they're all by themselves in the world.
Mm.
And I just want them to be loved. I want them to have the experience of being loved. That's why, because I got that from my mom. Thank God for my mom. She was the thing that saved my butt. Because it hadn't been for her, she was like my dad. I've met people that had, authoritarian, mean fathers and mean mothers, and they don't turn out too good.
Would
You
you
know,
say that your mom was your ideal mom and your therapist was kind of like some kind of father figure or brother
yeah,
figure?
yeah, yeah, I would definitely say that. Yeah, my psychiatrist was definitely, I really liked him a lot. He was, yeah, because he validated me. And when he first told me, because I remember when I first went to him, I'm like, yeah, there's got to be something you can do to make this go away.
He has a lot of good practical advice, and I really do want to get into that. But let's continue. So how old were you when you and your ex-wife met and then started your relationship?
I was just turning 20.
Spoiler alert, in your play, your wife, in from an audience looking in, your wife was the villain of the show.
Yeah,
I mean. if there is a villain, it would have to be your wife.
Yeah.
So, but it's also from your point of view.
Yes.
And so can you talk to me about, meeting her, the good days?
Yeah. Let's see. So she showed up at my work. She said she was leaving for California the next day because she had gotten a job offer. And
And
she
you're in
said,
Columbus, Ohio right now.
Columbus, yep, that was outside my work, that I was, running printing presses. And she said, you're too talented to be in Ohio. You need to come to California. And when I get settled, you should move out to California and stay with me until you get on your feet. And so then then she leaned over and kissed me. And the that was the clincher for me because first of all, she was willing to make the first move, and that was a turn on to me. Um, and she kissed good, and she was really pretty, and she was talented, and we were both Catholic, and we both smoked pot, and we were both into music. I mean, it was like perfect, right?
Sure.
But I didn't say anything in the play, the way that the play was written, you have to take certain liberties of combining, like you can't really tell the linear story, it would take forever.
Right, right, right.
So I have to combine certain elements. Like some of those phone calls I had with my wife or with my mom were actually calls to my best friend Fletcher or my psychiatrist. I mean, I combined things.
Sure.
And so in the play, the way I made it sound like was that, we started making out in the back of the car then, but what really happened was she kissed me. That floored me, and I was hooked. I mean, I was like instantly hooked. And so I knew she was leaving the next day. And so I found out where she lived,
Hmm.
and I went and I bought a poster. We were both into like fantasy and science fiction and stuff, and I bought this poster from The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. And I put a message on it with my phone number, and I dropped it off at her mom's house where she lived. Well, she didn't actually leave that next day. I found out that she wasn't going to be leaving until the following day. And so I'm like, well, hey, let's go on a date, before you leave.
Wow.
I would like to see you before you leave. And so we did. And we went to my favorite place in Ohio called Old Man's Cave. It's a place where there's caverns down in Southern California, or Southern Ohio, a bunch of caves and stuff. And it's just really, it's like another world. You're like all of a sudden you're in New Zealand or something. And so we went down there and we talked all night. And I told her about being gender dysphoric. I mean, she noticed I was wearing makeup, and she noticed I had shaved legs, and she noticed all this stuff. And so that's when I told her about my gender nonconformity issues. But she said that
That's
didn't.
that's like the second or third day from when
Yeah,
you met her. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
right off the bat, it's clear.
yeah. I
There's
didn't.
no
Again,
ambiguity there.
yes, I didn't want to lead with. I didn't want it to have to come out later. I was tired of hiding this.
Right.
And so, but that didn't stop us from making out the whole. I mean, we didn't get home. I dropped her off at like 6 in the morning. So we were making out in the back of my car for a long time and didn't bother her at all. In fact, she said, "That's okay. That doesn't bother me." She goes, "I like you like that, like you how you are." And so then she left for California, and we talked on the phone every day for a month. We even wrote songs to each other and stuff. Um, and I waited until she got out there and got settled, and opportunity came for me to drive out there with one of her friends who was going out there too. And so, yeah, I packed up my car and all my stuff, everything I owned. My multi-track reel-to-reel machine. I had a little tiny Chevette. It was like the size of I don't know, it was a tiny car, but I stuffed everything in there and drove to California. And then when I got to California, we had this agreement. We made this agreement. We wanted to make a band together. And we knew that the one thing that tears bands apart is when members of the band become romantically involved. And then if there's a problem with the relationship, it tears the band apart. So we're like, so we're not going to get romantically involved. We're just going to be roommates and we'll have this band and it's going to be great. And then we started making out and it just, we were both attracted to each other. And that's during that time, that's, gosh, I was only there for about a month or so. And one night she brought one of her nightgowns to me. She's like, why don't you wear this when we're making out? I'm like, wait, what?
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
Wait,
cool.
does she have some kind of gender dysphoria, your ex-wife?
I think she had bisexual tendencies.
Oh.
I think she just had bisexual. I think had a pretty she had a pretty diverse sexual experiences before me. And
Hmm.
she had been into coke and all. I never did coke. She was into a lot of different. She had a pretty crazy boyfriend that was into BDSM, and so she'd been around the block with some diversity. And so I remember then we made out, and we didn't even have intercourse, but we both orgasmed.
Oh.
And the next morning, I called my mom. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, mom, think she's trying to trick me or something. You know,
Mm.
it's just really weird. Why would a girl do that? I mean, why would she do that?
Hmm.
And my mom's like, maybe she likes you like that. Maybe you just have to trust your instinct, trust your heart, you know?
And this is the 90s, right?
Yeah, this was the 90s. Yeah.
So,
I think it was 91-ish.
mm.
Um, and and so that just is how it continued. And we just made out all the time. And eventually we had sex. And I can't remember when that first time was,
Mm.
but we both worked at the nuke plant, San Onofre,
Where's
the
that?
nuclear plant.
Oh,
You know where that's at?
no.
Down by San Diego. Okay. Well, it's decommissioned now, but that's where she worked, and I got a job there. And we wanted to go. We wanted to go back to Pennsylvania and buy a big Greyhound bus. We wanted to convert the bus to a motorhome and then just tour and play as a band. That
Mm.
was our goal.
Okay.
And some things fell through and this and that and the other, all that kind of plans. It was really hard to plan something like that. We ended up moving back to Ohio so we could meet each other's families and we wanted to get married. But yeah, we fell in love and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was amazing for a long time. That's why it was such a surprise to me when she didn't want to be married to me anymore. I mean, we had ups and downs and we had disagreements but all couples do. When we got back to Ohio, we started playing gigs all over the place and we made a deal with a recording studio that's a school in Ohio where they train people how to run recording equipment. And
Was there, here's a question. Was
yeah,
there ever a time when your ex-wife said, "Hey, if you I'm okay with your gender dysphoria. I'm okay with with that." But did she ever say to you, "But if you transition to a woman, that's where I draw the line and it's bad."
yes, yes,
She said that. So,
yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember because she asked me. Oh my God, we had been married maybe 3 years,
Because I
two
don't think
years.
that's in the play.
No, no. Well, I mean, there was only so much I could,
Sure, yeah.
I had
Uh-huh.
130 pages that became 30, and I'm like,
Right.
I can't put everything in there. No, she even asked me, we'd been married like 3 years, I think, and she said, hey, I just want to ask, if we hadn't got married, would you have already transitioned would you have had a sex change? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm sure I would have by now. And then she wanted to get an annulment. She's like, okay, that's it. I
Okay.
can't. No, that's not going to work for me. And I'm like, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, then we almost were going to get annulled, our marriage annulled. And that's when we decided to move back to California. I mean, because I even said, I don't even know how that worked out because I just remember crying a lot. And she was we were pretty close to getting our marriage annulled. It was going to happen.
And how
And
far into the marriage was this?
3 years.
Okay. So you guys are deep, into the marriage. That's a long time, 3 years
I
are,
think 3 years.
I
So hold
think.
on, I'm trying to remember when we moved back to California. So, or maybe 2 years. Yeah, 2 or 3 years. But I
Still,
mean, we had
yeah.
been together since, yeah, it was 2 or 3 years. Or yeah.
Yeah.
Then we moved back to California in '84. So it would have been, yeah, it would have been 3 years. Um, and we decided, well, we're just going to try again and see if we can make this work. And I'm like, but I don't want to transition. I want to be married to you. This is what I want. This is, I didn't think I wanted to. I mean, I'm like, maybe this will go away. Maybe being married and being in the male role, maybe eventually this will just
Hmm.
go away. I'll get better. And she thought so too, thought that it would eventually go away, but we still kept having this crazy sex life that's when she started making up these fantasies of us being two women. It was just so confusing to me. It really did take me and then I found out what being fetishized means. So in some relationships, a person will fetishize the other person. You become their kink
Okay. Like
and
role play.
they don't want anybody else to know about it. And I think that's kind of what was happening
Like
was that it
LARPing.
was,
That's
huh?
literally, isn't that what LARPing is?
I don't know. I don't
LARPing
know.
is live action role playing.
Yeah,
So
maybe that's
maybe.
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know that we always came together and sex was always pretty good for both of us. And we got back to California and we had a drummer who left the band and became a pastor. We started playing in the church band. Um, yeah, and I mean, even when we were in Ohio, like a lot of times happens with people that are trans, when they're not accepting of themselves early on, they'll try and force themselves into like, I even cut my hair. I mean, I got haircut. I started trying to do as much as I could to be a guy. Um, yeah, it was really, I don't know, it's
Hmm.
very confusing because I knew that I didn't want to not, I loved her. And
Yeah.
that was the hardest part about it was I didn't want to lose her, but I didn't understand why sometimes it was okay and sometimes it wasn't. And then, I mean, I'm sure she has her own perspective on but it was just very confusing for me.
Sure.
But then by the time we released our album, and I mean, then let's see, we came back to California in '84. And yeah, so 10 years later is when, that was 9 years later was when it was over. So
Okay. So so your marriage lasted for 10
12
years.
years, 12 years, or
Years.
11,
Okay.
11 or 12 years. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. And back and forth for me, it was like, and then being in a band gave me a camouflage because I could be effeminate. I could wear makeup. I could be, like Duran Duran and all those bands that were effeminate, wore makeup and had women's
Sure.
clothes and women's hairdos. And so, yeah, that gave me kind of a place to hide.
Right.
But the gender dysphoria just kept getting worse. And as time would pass, as I would age more and more, I start feeling a lot of pressure about, oh my gosh, is this going to be with me forever? Am I going to be like this forever?
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I had never shaved or anything.
The pressure came from just yourself.
Yeah, from inside, from internal. Yeah. Yep. And I kept thinking that I would get better. And she thought I would get better too. She thought it would eventually, grow out of it. I think that's when she found the psychiatrist. I think, I mean, and we had gone to marriage counselors and we'd gone to marriage encounter weekends. I mean,
You
we did
found
all,
your psychiatrist now?
she found the one that I had that I transitioned with. Yeah.
Oh,
She did a bunch of research and she said, yeah, I found the psychiatrist who
okay.
specializes in gender.
Okay.
Well, I'm like, okay, I'll go. I mean, maybe he can make something better. And
Yeah.
that's when he said that he wanted me to go on estrogen because he said that would make my feet, that would
Is
make
he
my
straight or
frustration.
gay? What is your psychiatrist? What's his sexual
He
orientation?
was straight.
He's
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was straight, man.
Can you refresh my memory on the title of the play?
Trans mom versus family court.
Random
Justice sees no gender. She didn't know. I mean, it's obvious she didn't know exactly what she wanted either. And, people change. And as time went on, you know, she was less and less into me, my gender fluidity, because it was starting to come out around other people.
Right.
And other people, people would ask questions. I had people ask me, "Are you gay or what is the thing with you?" I mean, if you saw pictures of me in the band, you would go, "Oh gosh, yeah, I could, I look the same."
Mhm.
I didn't have any facial surgeries or anything like that, but so yeah, I thought when I was naming the play, I really wanted to focus on how, it was basically me against the bias of the court. But the real problem was we had made a custody arrangement before she moved out, and we'd agreed not to go to court. We were just going to peacefully separate and be parents and co-parent Jasmine, and she would have time and I would have time, and we were just going to work everything out. It didn't have to be a court battle. And so there was something that must have happened. Somebody talked to her, or I don't know how, whatever gave her the idea. Now she wanted sole custody. And then when she started saying that it was going to damage our daughter to be raised by me and trying to make me out to be mentally ill and trying to deny that she even knew that I had this going on all this time. That's what ended up making me go, wait, what? Why are you lying about all this stuff? Why are you all of a sudden being aggressive and trying to separate me from Jazz? I mean,
What was
we
she lying about specifically? From
not knowing that I was transitioning,
so
not
she knew.
she knew she was the one who wanted a new life. I didn't want to date and I didn't want to keep doing, I just wanted to raise my kid. And I wanted to share raising her. And
Hmm.
so I had the weekend job, she had the weekday job. I had, custody during the week. She had custody during the weekend. And we wrote out a custody arrangement. And then she denied making that arrangement. And we had agreed to send our daughter to Ohio for the summer to spend time with both families while we separated our possessions and went through and, finalized everything,
Hmm.
getting her stuff out, and I was going to get another roommate. And but then all of a sudden it turned into this big aggressive thing. And like I say, that was pretty much after the Mother's Day incident. I don't know what happened. And I don't know if the time that she was unfaithful, I don't know if that was the only time, because I had friends telling me they thought that she had been unfaithful other times in the marriage.
What's the Mother's Day incident again? Can you refresh our memory?
Was when she had my daughter for Mother's Day and then brought her home, and Jazz came in and said, "Happy Mother's Day to you too, Gina."
Ah,
So by saying Happy Mother's Day to me,
that
it,
triggered her.
yeah, it triggered her. And she didn't, and my daughter didn't even call me mom. She didn't say mom. She said, "Happy Mother's Day to you too, Gina."
Hmm.
That's it. And the violence, oh my God, I was just terrified. to think
What violence?
she just got violent. She would try and hit me and
Oh,
smack. Yeah, she was.
on Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Uh,
as she was leaving, I shouldn't even think I remember right. She pushed me and because when she came to drop Jazz off, the guy that I was dating, Steve, was there, and he was affluent. He had money, and I think there was a little bit of jealousy that
mm,
I found someone before she did, and I was gonna be living pretty good if I stayed with Steve. I mean, again, I can't really get in her head and know what all was going on,
right.
but
You can't speak for her. We're just speculating, of course.
yeah, exactly. But I just know that it got really nasty when it didn't have to. And nowadays I'll see like stories of trans people that are transitioning and they stay friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even they stay married.
Mm,
Had we been able to just stay friends and not go to court, it all would have turned out differently.
right.
But as soon as somebody decided they were going to, as soon as the challenge came that sole custody and I'm only allowed to see her twice a week with
Yeah. That's
supervised visitation.
that's what kind of confuses me. It's like I would understand if she was fighting for sole custody if your daughter didn't want anything to do with you, but that's not the case, right?
No.
Your daughter was, I didn't even know she was your daughter at this point, but your daughter was doing the table on
Outside.
your
Yeah.
show. I didn't
Yeah.
know she was your daughter, but she's a lovely
Isn't she
you did a
cool?
great job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know her. I've only met her. I've only interacted with her coming in and coming out of the show, but
Yeah.
she has a good head on her shoulders.
She
But
does. She's an amazing person. Yeah, she turned out
yeah.
fantastic.
So that's what kind of confuses me is like what is motivate is she fighting this legal battle just to hurt you? Because
I think.
that's it. I mean, what else could it be?
That's right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, being still very religious, she's still a very religious person,
Yeah.
big into religion and big into the Bible. And so you know how it is. If somebody thinks that they're wrong and you're right, they don't want drag queens having storybook hour for kids in the library. I mean, because what will happen to the poor children? Nothing.
I mean, could she even practically raise Jazz on her own without you? Like,
No.
I would think, like,
No, especially not because she was working,
yeah.
full time, and also she was doing massage work, and she was still pursuing her music career. I had stopped everything. I just was working and being a parent. I stopped everything. I didn't want to do anything else, and that's what really confused me. It's kind of like, wait, what? And then the very, very, very confusing thing was after all is said and done. Case is over, joint custody, and then it would be her night to be with Jazz, and she would cancel.
Mm.
She would call and say, "Oh, I got a photo session, or I'm gonna meet some musician, or I got a date, or blah blah blah, or whatever the excuse was." She just went off and tried to create this brand new life,
Mm.
and and here I was going, well, I'm
Yeah.
do what you need to do. I don't care. I'll keep Jazz every night if I can. I mean, I would have had Jazz every night. I wanted to be a parent. I just wanted to work and be a parent. I just was so into raising my daughter. She was so fun to be around
Mm.
and just teaching her stuff. I mean, the job that she has now that my daughter made her own business, and it's basically built off of things that I taught her because
Oh,
I would
what
take her to
do
work with me and teach her my jobs. So
Mm.
I taught her about computers and I taught her about digital photography and I taught her about video editing and she turned all that stuff into employment. But
Oh.
that's what I wanted to do. I mean, but
Want
I
them to have a
got
better life than you did. Whether or not you had a good life or a bad life, you want your children, I mean, rationally speaking, you want your children to have at least as good or a better life than you did. I mean,
Exactly.
they're not, but like that's your goal. That's kind of what
Yeah.
you
I
want.
mean, and again, that's if you were if you're lucky enough to have a parent that treated you that way. And because I had my mom, and because that's how my mom raised me, like I was the only thing that mattered in the world, you know, and my brother, she treated us both the same. But I mean, because I had that kind of a parent, that was my example. Well, Kiki didn't, my ex-wife didn't really have that kind of an example. Her father died when she was still in high school. She had one of 12 kids. She was one of 12
Wow.
kids,
I mean, yeah.
right?
Sure.
Really big Catholic family. Her mom was amazing. I mean, her mom actually accepted me as female. After that, I would see her every time I go back to Ohio, her mom and she accepted me.
Mm.
And so her mom was great. I loved her mom. And yet her mom could only do so much and give so much attention to 12 kids and working full time. So my ex-wife never had that same thing that I had. And
Mm.
so when it came time for us to split, she saw that as her opportunity, again, I'm guessing,
Hmm.
to start a solo career and to, you know, make something of her music and to make something. And she did. I mean, she became a host of an open mic here in town and was,
Oh,
she put
great.
out music and
Sure.
she promoted music festivals. I mean, she continued doing it.
Good for
Um,
her. Yeah.
and still does to this
Okay.
day. I mean, I didn't pick up music again until when my daughter went to college.
Mm.
That's when I started playing music again.
Okay.
But yeah, so I couldn't understand the motive. I just knew that once there was a whole bunch of misrepresentations in a courtroom trying to basically make it so I had nothing to do with I mean, her main goal in the beginning was she wanted to get custody and move back to Ohio.
And
And I'm
take
like,
Jazz to Ohio.
yeah, take Jazz to Ohio. And I'm like, oh my God, then we'll not wait. What are you doing? It
Jazz
just,
was born in California.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the court wouldn't have let her do that anyway. But at the same time, that was the goal. She wanted to get her far away from me as possible.
And
And that's what,
Jazz is 10, 11, 12, something like
no, this is when she was still during
okay.
the court case.
And how old is Jazz? Yeah. How old is Jazz?
During the court case, she was
Yeah.
5.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because I thought your marriage your marriage lasted 12 years. So I thought she was like 12. So it sounds
No, no,
like
no, no. No, we didn't have her until like the end
oh,
towards
I
the end of
see.
the marriage.
That's right. That's
And
right.
actually, she wasn't 5. So if it was 93, 94, so 88 to 94. So she was 6, right?
Right.
4, 6. Yeah, 6.
Okay.
6 and then 7 when the case finally ended. But no, we had a blast. We got along great.
Hmm.
And it's also because of the way that I was around her. Like I pretty much gave her my undivided attention. To me, that was my role in life,
Right.
be a parent. I didn't really, I was tired of the music business. Now that I'm going to be female, which was like a dream come true for me, and, have a child, that was the ultimate. I couldn't think of anything better in life than to be a mom, to be a parent, and to help her grow. And she had a modeling and acting career, which got ruined, but she got into swimming and water polo. And I was just loving it. I was going to every meet, every swim meet, every water polo meet, videotaping everything she did. Yeah, to me, that was what life was about. So yeah, then at one point I think when she went to college, my daughter went to University of Iowa. So either when she went to college or right before, her mom moved up to Carmel, California, which
Mm,
I really didn't understand. I'm like, wait, why are you moving away from her?
mm.
And then not too long ago, I don't know, 4 years ago, she moved to Missouri.
Okay. So to this
So
day, you don't you the motive isn't clear for why she took you to Florida.
no, I think the motive was just the religious objection to me being trans.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I don't know. Yeah, it isn't completely clear. I
Yeah.
think that she thought that she genuinely believed that I was going to psychologically damage our daughter by being trans. I think that she
So
genuinely,
that might be the motive.
I
That
think so.
you would like harm her life.
Psychologically, yeah. And what would people think? You
Mm.
know, what would people think if she let her daughter be with a trans parent? You know, why does it matter what people think? But I do know that during our whole time together, she was a lot more concerned about what other people thought than
Right.
I was. I don't really care
Mm.
what people think. You're supposed to live your life. You're supposed to be true to yourself. If you live your life worrying about what other people think of you, you're going to end up with regrets.
Right.
And I think that was probably one of it, an element in it too, was she was worried about people judging her for letting her daughter be with me.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, I don't,
now, I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight. We know that, she was wrong because your daughter, turned out to be great.
yeah.
And it's a
And she turned out heterosexual.
yeah.
She married a man. She didn't turn
Uh-huh.
out lesbian or whatever it
Right.
was,
Right. Because
which
that
wouldn't
is
have mattered to me.
right. I mean, that is like, I mean, that is one of like the fears in the back of like the conservatives is like if you're gay, then you're trying to raise your children to be gay. If
Yeah,
you're two gay men and you have you adopted a son, you're trying to raise them as
yeah,
a gay
yeah.
man. That's what people think.
I know it.
But in your case, I mean, you just let your daughter be, herself. She
Yeah.
turned out to be a straight woman. So,
Yes.
I mean, they
Right. I
can't make
mean,
that
and
they can't make that argument against you specifically.
yeah.
So,
Well, and the cool thing was too is that, my psychiatrist even told me that years ago. After everything was said and done and the court case was over, I stayed in psychiatry for a while. I stayed with my psychiatrist for about 2 years after the case, just because I was still transitioning and I had had surgery and I just, I've always been pro psychiatrists. I've always been pro counseling. I think that everybody should have a counselor, at least during the hard parts of your life. And and so I stayed with him and I had all kinds of questions as she was growing up. Is it okay if this, I mean, how will I know what'll be the signs if I'm, damaging her, or what'll be the signs if this lifestyle is unhealthy to her? How I know if I'm a good parent or not. And so he helped me identify a lot of that. He was really good. He even met with her a couple times too. Um, yeah, so that ended up being the whole impetus for doing play. Was like I wasn't even going to do a play. I've never done a play before. Never been in a play, never done a play, never wrote a play. But with all the anti-trans stuff coming out, a close friend of mine said, your story is really powerful because we can see the history, we can see how it turned out. It's not like this just happened 5 years ago and we don't know what the story is going to turn out like. We see how she turned out. And this friend knows my daughter and she said, this is going to fly in the face of the anti-trans rhetoric that's out there, of all the people saying, that we're damaging to children, that trans people shouldn't be around kids, and that, it's going to confuse kids.
um,
And she also doesn't want to pick sides. You know
sure.
what I mean? I never raised her to be against her mom. You know
Okay.
what I mean? I never wanted her. I wanted her and her mom to have a good relationship,
Mhm.
because I felt like that's going to make her a healthy adult, is if she has a good relationship with both parents.
And
Their
how is
mom,
her relationship with her mother?
uh, they talk a lot. I mean, and they'll see each other, like they'll do things together. Um,
Is your ex-wife in California or is she back in
no, she moved to Missouri.
Missouri? That's right.
Yeah, yeah, and then, but I still. I want when they get together, I want it to be Jazz and her mom. I want her to devote the time with her. And a lot of times when Jazz will get together with her mom, there's other people around and it's her mom's gig and Jazz goes to the gigs with her and Jazz goes here with her and she it's like Jazz is the trophy or something instead of them having one-on-one mom and daughter time. That's what I really want for her, but it just hasn't doesn't really happen that way. And her mom has a lot of regret. Um, she doesn't, I don't know if she actually would frame it that way or admit it or say that, but she's I told her that she
Well,
would.
they still have time.
Yes, they
So
do.
like there's still hope and
Yes. Yeah. And again, I'm like every time something comes up, I'm like, this will be the time. This will be the time when her mom actually just makes Jazz the star and just devotes her time with her. And because, yeah, I think as time passes, things soften, hopefully. I
yeah.
mean, her mom still doesn't like, I think there was something on Facebook, oh, I don't know, maybe last year or 2 years ago or something, where I posted a picture of Jazz and me on Mother's Day. And I put something like Mother and Daughter Day or something like that. And her mom comments, well, you're not her mom. And I'm like, oh my God, still you have to go there. Still, of course, I'm not her mom, I'm her dad, but she calls me mom and I have a mom role. So get over yourself.
Yeah.
And then I had to block her because I'm like, I can't take
It's too
her
much.
seeing my stuff and commenting on my stuff. That's just like, it's just been 30 years. There was a time when she was with a man for like a 4 or 5 year period that she was with this guy.
Oh,
um,
okay.
Everything started to get better again. And I would go over to their house. And we would have like, she would have a birthday party for Jazz. I would be invited and I would invite them to my place. So I was like, oh my gosh, there's
Oh,
finally going to be peace.
that's a long
And
time. 4 or 5 years of that's a
yes,
significant time of positive.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So when that relationship ended, then things kind of went back to where they
Ah.
before that. And,
It was the guy that was kind of helping you guys rekindle some kind of positive relationship.
yeah, he was a sweet man, really nice guy. And he and I had longest conversation. We talked for a long time. We got along really good.
Yeah.
And he was the one that made the peace.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you everyone for listening. Welcome to Straight Up Gay Talk. Thank you for watching an episode of Straight Up Gay Talk. If you're a straight man or a straight woman, if you're a trans man or a trans woman, whoever you are, and you want your voice to be heard, please scan the QR code on your screen and let's have a conversation. I look forward to hearing from you. I love you all. If you like, comment, and subscribe. My pet giraffe, who has pancreatic cancer and has had one stroke and two heart attacks, will survive.
So long, gay boys.